Welcome to Aging Insight with your host, John Ross and Lisa Schollmeyer. This program is made possible by
Welcome to another edition of Aging Insight, everybody. I'm your host, John Ross, here in the studio with my co-host, Lisa Schollmeyer, and she and I are elder law attorneys with offices in your neighborhood, most likely, because we are out there in Texas, Arkansas. We're out there to provide you the information you need so that as you get older, you can accomplish your goals. And we figure, from dealing with thousands of people,
Yes.
we figure that your goals are something like staying out of a nursing home, not being a burden on others, and protecting and preserving your resources so that you do not go broke prior to your death. Those three are the big concerns that we see. I mean, it seems like almost every group of people I talk to, I say, generally people have one or more of these three big concerns: not going to a nursing home, they don't want to be a burden on others, and they don't want to go broke, and heads are nodding in the audience.
Right, right. And, you know, when you take those big three categories, there's some little offshoots from that. So today on Aging Insight, I thought we might talk about some of the concerns that a lot of people have about either approaching retirement or in retirement. And John, I think maybe today we can talk about the concerns that people voice, but yet we'll kind of turn that into what they really should be concerned about on each of those
Yeah, you know,
topics.
it's funny. There's there's lots of things to be concerned about out there, but lots of times I'm talking to people who are concerned about things that they do not need to be concerned about.
Right. So, and probably the number one thing that I hear about from people is they are worried that Social Security is going to go broke. It's going to end. And so that is one of their big concerns. And John, I can appreciate that, but you know, what can you know, retiree here or soon to be retiree, you know, here in our community really do about whether or not the whole Social Security system goes broke?
Well, and you know, I guess the deal is that sure, your Social Security is very important, and in fact, for many people, that is their sole source of income through their retirement years. That many people have no other savings or very limited savings, certainly not enough savings that they can generate other income from those, so they're living off that Social Security. So sure, does it seem reasonable to be concerned that what's going to happen, especially with all the politicians saying, oh, Social Security is underfunded, there's not enough money, it's going to go broke? Sure, those things are out there. The reality of it is, if you're approaching retirement age, if you're in retirement age, if Social Security does go broke, it's not going broke in your lifetime. You know, we talk about, like, Lisa, with the baby boomers that are the ones that are receiving Social Security or will be in the next
Very
10 to
soon,
15
yes.
years, they outnumber everybody else by about 3 to 1.
Right.
You know, that's a huge voting block.
Yes. So
There's just not going to happen. But when you're talking about Social Security, you know, you don't need to worry about it going away. What you do need to worry about is when you should take it.
right. And so because, you know, the deal with Social Security in our current low interest rate environment, you know, for all of you out there that have a little money in a CD somewhere, you know that the return on your savings is very low right now. And so, but Social Security, the way Social Security is structured, the age at which you take Social Security can make a big difference in your monthly income. And of course, that monthly income will come for the rest of your life. So John, presently with the Social Security system, the retirement age, full retirement age is age 66.
Right.
And but you can take Social Security as early as age 62.
That's right.
And you can defer, or you could defer taking any Social Security at all until age 70. So of course there's an 8-year span there between 62 and 70 that you could file for Social Security. And depending on what age you are when you file, it has a permanent impact on how much you get each month.
That's right, because at full retirement benefit, you get 100% of your retirement. But each year earlier than full retirement, you lose 8%. And each year you wait beyond full retirement, you gain 8%. So oftentimes I've explained it to clients and I say, look, if you had a CD at the bank that was paying 8%, would you cash in that CD? And the answer is absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And, of course, John, people, retire for many reasons. Some just because they want to. Some have health challenges that they need to retire, and they may not have any other source of income. So, taking that Social Security is necessary. But I have a lot of folks who'll say, well, I'm going to take my Social Security as soon as I can because I want to get as much out of the system before it goes broke.
Right. And it's just not going to happen.
And it's not going to happen. So, so the timing of when you take Social Security, that should be a deliberate, analysis that you do, because it means an 8% gain or more, or an 8% loss or more for the rest of your life on that income. So instead of worrying about Social Security going broke, worry more about making the right selection of the year and age that you take it.
Yeah, and that kind of, when you talk about making those right choices, a lot of times people, especially if they're a little bit younger than retirement, I don't know, around this age, maybe they might be worried about things like, how am I going to pay for my kids' college, or maybe they are my parents' age and they're worried about making sure those grandkids get a good college education. They want that to be their legacy, is grandkids that have college degrees, because they didn't get that chance, and they're worried about these other people going to college.
Right. And so, and of course, if you watch the news, the cost of a college education and the inflation that has occurred in the cost of college education is big news. And so it is often on the top of people's minds, parents and grandparents. And so they worry about paying for their children's education. But I would suggest to you that instead of worrying about a child's education, you should worry first about funding your retirement. John, the reality is, I'm not a big fan of debt as a general rule, but the reality is your child can get student loans if they had to complete that degree, but there's no loans in retirement.
That's right, and even if they get those loans, they have an entire lifetime of working to generate money to pay off those college expenses, whereas if you do not have enough money in retirement, you're out of luck.
Right. So
you're just out of luck. So yeah, this is the time where it's not time to focus on the needs of others. You need to focus on the needs of number one. So yeah, your money, use for you first, then worry about what these other people are doing, like going to college and stuff like that.
It kind of reminds me, when you're on an airplane and they say, if the oxygen comes down, put it on for yourself first and then assist that child. But if you think about it, John, if you can pay for yourself in retirement, then you've reduced the possibility of you being a burden on others.
That's exactly right. It goes back to some of those basics. So let's take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about a few other things that you might be concerned about out there, but really probably should be concerned about something else. So we're going to talk about all that in just a second. Be right back.
At Advantage Senior Care, our goal is for seniors to stay home longer, stay healthy, and above all, stay happy. Introducing the Independence Check. A trained caregiver will visit your loved one in the comfort of their home, providing assistance with medicines, meal prep, caring companionship, and more.
Miss Smith, I just stopped by your dad's. He's taking his medicine and doing great.
See how an Independence Check can make all the difference in your loved one's day. Call Advantage Senior Care today.
The Wadley Senior Clinic has been such a blessing for our family. Because they specialize in geriatric care, they take the time to really focus on Dad's needs. Their exam rooms are specially designed for seniors, and they offer lab and x-ray on site. With monthly educational programs on health and wellness of the mind and body, our healthcare questions get answered. Best of all, they accept Dad's Medicare benefits. See what the Wadley Senior Clinic can do for you. Wadley Senior Clinic, where healthy relationships begin.
Welcome back, everyone, to Aging Insight. I'm Lisa Scholmeyer here with John Ross, and we're elder law attorneys here in our community. And today we're talking about worries that people have as they approach retirement or are in retirement. And we're talking about some of those they don't need to worry about, but maybe there's something else in that place that they should really focus their attention on. So in our first segment, we talked about things like worrying about the solvency of Social Security,
Yeah, Social Security is going to be around. It's not going to go broke during your lifetime.
Yes, worried about paying for children or grandchildren's education.
Nope, I liked your analysis. You put the mask on yourself first, then worry about the kids.
That's pretty good.
I liked it. That was great.
And John, right now we're in an election time as we are filming today's episode. Things are kind of heating up, and it seems like every election cycle lately, people say, oh, if so-and-so wins the election, life as we know it is over, and I'm leaving the country, or I'm going to bury all my money, take it all out of the bank and bury it in the backyard. The world's going to end.
Right.
So a lot of people make decisions about retirement and make serious financial moves based on the results of elections. And John,
the fact is that the election is not going to affect you. There might be some policies or things that you like or don't like, laws that might get passed that you like or don't like. But when it comes to your retirement, your financial stability, your ability to care for yourself, age the way you want to, nothing about the presidential election has absolutely anything to do with those decisions.
And I know a lot of people have, and we've talked about the impact of the Affordable Care Act and the cuts to Medicare and thing on a lot of our listeners and viewers. But in the bigger picture, you shouldn't make any drastic moves just based on the outcome of an election. Again, whatever will be, so you just need to make the wisest decisions you can with your retirement savings and your choice of residence and all that, the things that you can control. And you make your investment choices based on your risk tolerance and market conditions and things like that, not about presidential elections and politics. Yep, right.
No, that's exactly right. And on that same note, I'll have a lot of people now say, well, now that I'm in my retirement years, I need to get out of the market. I don't want any of those stocks and bonds.
Right, too risky.
I had I had a lady call me the other day, and she said, I mentioned something, and I said, well, I can call your financial advisor who I knew, and she said, well, don't bother, because I'm moving all of my stuff, because he keeps telling me I need to be putting money in those stocks and bonds, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, well, and John, again, kind of going back to that low interest rate environment these days, if you just stick your money in a savings account in the bank, is your money safe? Sure, I guess the amount that you put in is going to be there, but are you losing money? Yes, because inflation is beating you on your dollars. The dollars you put in last year are worth less this year. And so, just a secure savings account or CD, it will keep your principal safe, but the purchasing power of that principal is declining every day. And so for your client who was concerned, who was not receptive to the advice of her financial advisor, sounds to me like he was trying to keep her ahead of inflation a bit. And really the only way to do that right now is through some diversification of investments.
Sure, and people say, oh, well, the stock market is risky, and you're right, the stock market is risky, but there are some things in the stock market that are more risky than others. People say, well, my bank, that's a safe thing. Do you think, think about your local bank and then think about a company like Walmart. Which one of those two is more likely to go out of business?
Sure.
Probably that local bank, there's some other things to think about out there, but yeah, don't think that, I've got to get out of the market. That's not the thing. You've got to invest appropriately with risk tolerance. Sure, as you get older, less risk.
You want a safer investment.
But that doesn't mean sticking everything in a coffee can in the backyard. And frankly, putting it in a bank these days is not much different.
That's right. So
it's just a bigger coffee can.
Right. Yes. with paper, with statements.
Right. But people want to save this money, and why do they want to save this money? Because this kind of goes to one of those other concerns. They want to leave a big inheritance for their kids.
Right. So a lot of people are concerned about the legacy they're going to leave their children, and of course, my philosophy is you should spend your money taking care of yourself and checking off your bucket list. No child is, promised or, is entitled to an inheritance. But, if you are concerned about the legacy that you're going to leave to children, one thing you should certainly worry about, and instead of just the overall picture, make sure you check your beneficiary designations on things like life insurance, annuity contracts, and retirement assets like IRAs.
Yeah, Lisa, I had a conversation just right before we started filming this show earlier today, and I was a financial advisor, and he was calling because he had a client who has died, and he was describing the client to me, and he said this guy was so frugal, and he lived so he just hardly wouldn't spend any money, and he was so proud of his investments because he was going to be able to leave some to his kids and stuff. But in that whole process, he has an IRA with hundreds of thousands of dollars in it and no beneficiary listed on it. And with an IRA without a proper beneficiary designation, that IRA is going to be subject to tax upon his death. And even in the best case scenario, Lisa, we're talking about probably a couple of $100,000 in taxes, maybe spread over 2 or 3 or 4 years, but still a lot of money that is unnecessary because of the circumstances. So he got so focused on building the asset when what he should have been focused on was how to properly transfer it.
Right. So we do get those concerns of building assets and not about the business of transferring them. And John, I've got a couple more worries that I hear from clients, but I think we'll take a break and come back and hear these last couple, and then we'll wrap up with just some good advice for you out there as you are in retirement. So stick around with us.
As things get older, they require more care. This car and I have seen a lot of miles together, but because I take care of her, she runs just like she did in 1955. That's why I chose the Wadley Senior Clinic, with an individualized care plan designed just for me and a convenient location off Jefferson Avenue. They have everything to keep me running like new. It's not about the miles, it's about the journey. Let the Wadley Senior Clinic keep you happy, healthy, and cruising down the road of life.
At Advantage Senior Care, our goal is for seniors to stay home longer, stay healthy, and above all, stay happy. Our individualized plans are tailored to your loved one's needs, from meal preparation, shopping, and light housekeeping, to bathing and dressing, mobility assistance, and companionship. Our trained caregivers will help maintain your loved one's independence while providing you with peace of mind. See how our family can help yours. Trust our locally owned and family-operated senior care service. Call Advantage Senior Care today.
Welcome back to Aging Insight, everybody. I'm John Ross here with Lisa Schulmeyer, and today we've been kind of going over we talk about that people have some big concerns out there, and concerns about what happens if you go to the nursing home and not being a burden on others and protecting your assets. Those are big legitimate concerns. But a lot of times people have some, I won't call them illegitimate concerns, but maybe some unfounded.
Unfounded, that's much better.
Unfounded
Yes.
concerns out there that where they're concerned about one thing when really they should probably be concerned about another. And we've talked about several, but particularly in a long-term care, we talk about people don't want to go to the nursing home.
Right.
They also know that that's a possibility
Possibility for most anyone.
for almost anybody, and they generally know that it's expensive
Yes.
if that happens. And so a lot of times we'll see people who are worried about the cost of long-term care insurance
Yes.
because either they already have it and they can't afford it, but they're struggling to make those payments, or they're thinking about getting it, but it's going to really eat into their retirement income or something.
Right.
They're worried about that insurance.
They're worried about that insurance, but I guess, John, one of the things they really should be worried about, well, number one, long-term care insurance is really something that people maybe in their 50s, early 60s, that's the best time to look at it for you. But if you're worried about the cost of care, you really need to be looking at structuring your assets in such a way that you can afford to obtain the care that you may need later on.
Well, so often I've had, for example, people who were paying for long-term care insurance, and after looking at their situation, they didn't need it.
Right.
Not because they had too little, but because frankly they had too much. The average cost of nursing homes was $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Yes.
Sure, that's expensive, but the actual length of stay and your risk and all of these other things mean that the actual out-of-pocket expenses for long-term care across the board are generally not that much. And so, when I've got a client that's sitting there with hundreds of thousands of dollars of assets and they're paying for long-term care insurance, that was just ridiculous. On the other hand, I've seen people who were paying for long-term care insurance that could easily qualify for Medicaid or veterans benefits, especially with just a little bit of estate planning to get them ready for that.
Right. So long-term care insurance isn't the only solution to the concerns about needing care support later in life. Don't just focus on the long-term care insurance. Get with someone that can help you really evaluate your situation to see how you can pay for yourself through a health crisis as you get older.
Yeah. Again, it's the concern is the insurance, but that shouldn't be the concern. The concern is how are you going to pay for it and structuring your assets and everything correctly. Insurance might be the solution, but for the vast majority of people, it's not. There's some other way out there. Now, before our last break, Lisa, you said you got a few other little little good ideas out there.
Well,
maybe.
John, when we talk about needing care, most people will tell us that they plan to remain at home.
Mm-hmm.
They plan to age in place, remain at home, and we've had prior episodes where we've talked about if that's your plan, make sure you get your home ready for that. But one concern that some people have, if they still have a mortgage on the property, many people, as they approach retirement, they consider paying off the mortgage, and that being some sort of financial security to them that they've paid off the mortgage. It's not them in the bank on the house anymore. But John, paying off the mortgage in and of should not be the goal in and of itself. Right now, again, interest rates are very low. So if you have a low interest mortgage, it might be better for you to hang on to your money, your cash, and invest that to make sure you're beating inflation.
Sure.
Because you've got a set mortgage with a set, small interest rate. Also, if you pay off a mortgage, many people feel like they must remain in that home. It's paid off.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't think about as they get older, can they afford the taxes and insurance on that property? Can they do the maintenance and upkeep necessary on the property? Can they remodel or cover the maintenance cost on that property. And sometimes people anchor themselves into a home because they feel like, well, gosh, I've paid off the mortgage, I must live here.
Right, and I had that recently with somebody, and they that was all fine and dandy, except that the house was out of town, and it was a very rural area, and now that the health and things have declined, it just doesn't, it's not the place that they had hoped it would be. It was great for one stage of their life, but has turned into the exact opposite in this new stage. Right.
So a lot of people are concerned about a mortgage on their property when what they're really concerned is, having the best and appropriate living environment as they navigate through retirement. So the mortgage is not the only factor in that.
No, certainly not. And of course, you're talking about a house. It's going to lead into some of these others, like making sure you get it to the right person. So focusing on, it's not about paying off that house so you'll be able to leave it to somebody. It's pay it on that house and then figure out how to leave it to somebody so that the state doesn't get it or anybody else. So there's lots of those sort of things out there. So, you're going to have some worries as you get older. That's normal. But make sure you're worried about the things that are appropriate, because if you start worrying about things that are unfounded worries cause you to forget about the things that you really should be worrying about. And Lisa and I, we see problems that people have, and oftentimes those problems have arisen because somebody was focused on the wrong thing. They needed to change their focus, and so you've got to get out there and learn this information, which of course is why you're watching the show.
Great, yeah. So you can also catch us on Saturdays at 12 noon on 98.7. It's a live call-in radio program. So if you're watching here and you have a question, you can always give us a call there, and you can pick up our Aging Insight magazine, and those are free. So if you see one and you like it, just grab it and take it home or give it to a friend. But otherwise, we'll be back here next week on another episode of Aging Insight.
See you then.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Aging Insight program with John Ross and Lisa Schollmeyer. This program is made possible by